Basic authentication is a mechanism whereby an HTTP communication can be authenticated by the server. What this means is that when a client makes a request to a server, or whether it's a browser making a request to a web server or a web service client making a request to the web service, this uh, request can be authenticated by providing user information in the request. The client sends a request to the server with user credential information. The server extracts this information from the request and performs authentication. Now we will get into the more technical aspects of this uh, basic authentication scheme. As we noted in the earlier slide, this basic authentication is a part of the request that the client makes to the server. An HTTP request is essentially a text based message that is sent from the client to the server. The text message itself has a particular structure. It comprises of multiple lines. The first line indicates the method that is being used in the request. There are multiple methods that HTTP supports. There is the get method, the post method, the put method, and several others. Following the first line, the subsequent lines of the request are header lines, and each header has a specific meaning and name. A header has a name and it has a value or content. In basic authentication, the header that we are interested in is called the authorization header. The name of the header is authorization and its content is the credential information of the user making the request. The header content comprises of the string basic followed by a space followed by credential information. The credential information itself is transformed using base64 encoding. The base64 encoding is essentially converts readable text into an unintelligible sequence of characters. The primary use of this base64 encoding is to safely transmit characters in the HTTP protocol that could potentially interfere with the HTTP message itself. The credential structure itself is very simple. It is the username colon password. Now we have enough of the information and knowledge to see the overall picture. So this is what happens. The client program constructs the request. The request contains the HTTP method and the resource to be requested, and importantly in our case it contains the authorization header. The client sends the request to the server receives the request and inspects the authorization header. From the authorization header, it extracts the base64 encoded string. The server then runs this base64 encoded string through a reverse process called base64 decoding, which provides the server with the unencoded data that was transmitted, that is the username :password information. The server then uses this user credentials to validate the authentication information against a database or a identity service, and if the authentication is successful, it performs the requested operation, which in this case is to get a specific resource. If the authentication is not successful, the server returns an error response which tells the client that the request was unauthorized. That's how basic authentication works. Thank you.